All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to my comfy corner where I talk about things that make me comfy so I could stop bothering the people around me. And today, no, you have not read the title wrong. I'm talking about something other than TXT, though I'm keeping the wall up here because I am still working on the part videos. Trust me, there will be another video coming up soon, maybe in the next week or so. But today I want to talk about a book that has had me hooked for the past month or so. Its name is Murdle. Okay, it's a Murdle mystery. It is by G.T. Carber, and honestly, you did that. A little bit about this author. Apparently, he grew up in a small town in Arkansas. I'm reading on the back of the book, so I don't know this person. And also, this is not sponsored, but can be sponsored. I hope you make a volume 4 of this book. Yes, to spoil myself and you guys, there are 3 volumes of this, and this is volume 1. Anywho's, they grew up in a small town, and he is the son of a judge and a civil rights attorney, which is hilarious because there's a judge character in here. And he graduated from University of Arkansas with a degree in mathematics and English literature, and he holds an MFA. Don't know what that is, but also I'm not educated enough to know. From the University of Southern California as the General Secretary of the Hollywood Mystery Society. That's the community that he has made with his mysteries. You could also play through his mysteries online if you're so inclined to not get the physical hardback cover that I have. And he has overseen the staging of dozens of immersive whodunits in the LA area. The next time I'm in LA, if that's even possible, I don't know when's the next time I'm going to be in LA, but I promise you I want to do one of his whodunits. Like, I imagine it is so much fun. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, to talk about the book that I'm talking about, this is called Murdle. It says 100 elementary to impossible mysteries to solve using logic, skill, and the power of deduction. And like I said, this is based off of the website that he has and runs over where he posts daily puzzles that you could solve, but it has an overarching story with it. So I would definitely recommend checking this out. This was a great find. What happened was me and my boyfriend walked into Barnes & Noble, as we do, and on the table it was Barnes & Noble's monthly pick, and usually their monthly picks don't miss. I have another video planned in terms of talking about books, about a book that I picked up, and I won't spoil the name of it because I have so much to say about that other book. But anywho's, so I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, this is cute, and it was buy one get one 50% off for each of these books. So I was like, not only is this Barnes & Noble's monthly pick and they never miss, but you're saying that I get this 50% off. All 3 books, this volume and the other 2 volumes, were only $8.50 to me. Also, to be fair, I am a Barnes & Noble premium member, so I did get a discount on top of the discount. But I'm just saying, like, girlies, go get this if you can at your local Barnes & Noble or bookstore. But if you don't want to buy the paperback, which I would recommend because I am a writer and you're going to need to scribble with these, okay? It is online for free, I believe. At least when you first start it up, they have like an intro one and there's a couple more. So I'm pretty sure it's free, but I don't know if there's a paywall with it. But if there is, trust me, it is worth it. So anyway, I'm going to tell you and talk to you about this book because at first when I did it, me and my boyfriend just like flipped to a random one and was like, okay, let's do this, right? Like, you just flip to a random one, and I'm giving you a sneak peek of what it looks like. I'll get to it later. But then I was like, no, let me start from 1 because I'm a completionist and I want to do it in order. And as I was going through it, I realized, oh, there's actually a story with this. There's actually a story within the story. And so I'm going to talk about the story within the story. I'm probably going to break it up into 4 parts. So this will probably be part 1 of the video and of Myrtle, because there are 4 sections in this book, but each section has its own story. And then overall, there's an overarching story that I will talk about and get into as well. So with that being said, and if this interests you as it interests me, because this is so fun, like, it's not only a puzzle book, but there's a story and there's lore and the characters matter and the descriptions matter. Like, honestly, I don't know how G.T. Carber was able to keep up with everything that they put in here and then make 2 more versions, which I'm on version 2, and yes, the story does continue. So yeah, I just want to give this person their flowers because I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it in mainstream book talk, and maybe they are. I'm not mainstream book talk either, but I feel like this person deserves their flowers wherever they are. You did this, and I love this, so I'm going to talk more about it. See you soon. Okay, so what I'm going to first do for this part, this is the elementary part, is I'm going to explain the characters. I think that's the best thing to do. And then I'm also going to mention a couple of landmarks that are going to be very crucial throughout this story. So follow me, Kara. It's going to be a lot of exposition, but I promise I'm going to make it fun because I'm going to add my own commentary to it. Anywho's, we have first up the amazing Orlin. She is one of my favorite characters. I love her so much, and you're going to see why later. But she is a magician who perfected the sawing your husband in two routine. Then she made his body disappear. She is a lovely person. We're going to see later on how she is affected. Midnight the Third is the grandson of the founder of Midnight Movies, in a self-described self-made man. He's a Nepo baby. He's a third generation Nepo baby. We'll get into some of the other Nepos in a while. But anywho's, Midnight Movies in this world is essentially like the largest, like think of it like a Sony or an IMAX or or Disney. Think of them like Disney. They're essentially Disney. Like they own a lot of different ventures, but they're known for their amazing movies. So he is the grandson of that. So obviously he's not self-made. Then there's Dame Obsidian, my good Judy ma'am. I love Dame. Her blurb is a mystery writer whose books have sold more copies than the Bible and Shakespeare combined. And in this world, she is that girl, okay? She is that baddie. I love her so much. She is so crucial to the story as well. Like it said, her books were sold more than the Bible and Shakespeare combined. She is bigger than your favorite artist or your biggest celebrity, like singer, writer, author, illustratress, whoever you're thinking of, she's bigger than Beyonce. She is Beyonce in this, okay? Just know that, because she's going to get away with a lot of things, and she's going to do a lot of things, and you're like, that doesn't make sense for the author to get away with, but throw that out your mind, okay? She is damn near a god in this book, okay? Just know that. Next, we have Senior Emerald. He's not too prevalent of a character. Just know that he's just a jeweler, and what's really funny is that anytime he walks, he just have jewels falling out of his pocket, which I think are funny. I would follow him. I would be his best friend. Shit, I'd be picking up the the jewels immediately. And there is Father Mango. He is basically a priest that is corrupt. And then we have Miss Saffron. She's the gorgeous, glamorous gal who acts ditzy but is very, very smart. There's Captain Slate. She's a female astronaut. She traveled around the dark side of the moon. She's going to come up a couple of times, but not too important to the story. There's Bishop Adur, another corrupt religious person. Then there's Blackstone Esquire. Now know that there are multiple Blackstones in this story and in future volumes as well. Basically assume that if I say Blackstone Esquire, I'm talking about one of a company, because this is the lawyer / attorney throughout this entire book, and there's multiple of them that go by this name. So that is Blackstone. There's Vice President Mauve. Not too important to the story, but still present. They are the TechCo president. Basically, this is the Mark Zuckerberg of the group. Like, think Meta. Like, this is the person in head of Meta in this book, right? A Meta adjacent. There's Chef Aubergine. I love Chef Aubergine. We're gonna get into Chef Aubergine too later. Just know that, like, her big vibe is that not only is she a chef, but it says that she once killed her husband, cooked him, and then served him at her restaurant. It's not true, and it's not, but just the fact that it's said about her tells you something. That's the blurb, and she's an icon, okay? She's a true icon, and when we get to it, we'll get to it. There's Philosopher Boone, not too important. He's just a philosopher. There's Officer Cooper. This is a cop that gets away with a lot of murders throughout this book, but because she's a cop, she sort of cuts the middleman. That's literally her blurb. The best part of being a policewoman criminal is that you can cut out the middleman and fail to investigate your own crimes. I'm so glad that this is a fictional book and not reflective of reality. Anywho's, Dr. Crimson, she's the smartest doctor. She comes in and out, not too important, but is very prevalent throughout the story. There's Sister Lapis. She's a nun that loves spending money. Who doesn't? There's General Coffee, another one of my favorites. I know I keep saying favorites, but like so many of these characters are so fun and have personality. And like, just to give you a sneak peek of what it looks like, again, please go purchase this book and go through the story yourself. But I'm here to run it down if you don't want to. So there's so much character, even though this is literally what you get page by page, just a little blurb, an item, a location, and then you solve it using this really fun grid, and say who, what, and where. But just know that they do a really good job to add in some juicy drama and personality to each of these characters. So General Coffee, I love him. He's essentially an assassin. He kills for fun and is a war general and has seen a lot of stuff, but also he just loves coffee. And he'll do anything for coffee. And anytime you see General Coffee, it tends to be a cafe murder or something in relation to coffee. And I love that for him. He sticks to the script. There's Cosmonaut Bluesky, an ex-Soviet spaceman whose blood flows red. Cosmonaut is not really special in this volume, though they appear a lot. Cosmonaut Bluesky becomes more crucial in volume 2 of Murdle. And I'll probably make another video of that if you guys like this. There is Earl Grey. I love Earl Grey. There are many Earl Greys. There's a line of Earl Greys, and instead of having a first, second, and third, like the Midnights, they just keep the name. And so to differentiate which Earl Grey is which is dependent on what they do at their tea bag. So for instance, this Earl Grey doesn't sign autographs, but he'll give you a free tea bag if you ask. Another Earl Grey doesn't give you free tea bags and takes very big offense if you try to take a tea bag from him, but he does sign autographs, so on and so forth. There's a line of Earl Greys. There's Cerulean. He comes in and out. Basically a person who believes that they are knighted by the queen, but has really unofficial paperwork with him to prove that he's a knight. So we don't know if he is or not. I don't think he is, but you know, I'll let him live in the fantasy. There is Lord Lavender, basically a conservative MP. Think of him actually like an Andrew Lloyd Webber. There we go. Think of him as Andrew Lloyd Webber. He basically makes a lot of theater, and makes money off of it. There is Constable Cooper, another officer, a twin to Officer Cooper. You don't see Constable a lot. There's Brother Brownstone, another monk, corrupt official. There's Comrade Champagne. They're a communist. There's Grandmaster Rose. Also love Grandmaster Rose. They are a chess grandmaster, and in their description, they're actually doing chess moves, and it's kept up throughout the entire book, and you get to see whether or not they win their chess match that they're playing each time they're prevalent. Again, Grandmaster Rose becomes more important in the next volume, in volume 2 of Myrtle, but again, they're here. There's Coach Raspberry. They are a coach. They were the coach to Deductive Logico's college, and he's just a coach in general. There's Bookie Winter Gainsborough. I love Bookie, because Bookie, every time you see him, he talks about how he won the Bookington Award for his novel, which is like a prestigious award given to like well-known authors, and it's just a 6,000 page long book about dirt. I don't know how this man won, but it must have been very interesting. Then there's Director Dusty. We'll see him more in the tail ender part of this volume, but he's a director. And then there is different stories being told that's not in account to this story. There's Editor Ivory. She's an editor. There's Assistant Applegreen. She's an assistant to an assistant to an assistant, essentially. Her father, which is Principal Applegreen, is very proud of her, and you'll see Assistant Applegreen change throughout this volume as well. Principal Applegreen is just a principal at a school. And then there's Agent Ink. She is Dame Obsidian's agent, so she is like the it girl, okay? She has a heart of gold, but a mind for gold too. If you like living, do not cross her. Trust me, you do not want to cross her. And I believe that is all of the characters that I need to talk about in this section. Ooh, actually, no. There's Silverton the Legend. He's an old actor. Think of like a Sylvester Stallone, you know, a very seasoned, like been through life actor that is regarded well. There's Chancellor Tuscany. This is the head of the deduction college that Logico went to, and Chancellor, I love her. I love her so much because so many times I thought that she actually did a couple of murders and she didn't. But it would have made so much sense if she did. But she keeps that coy, like, I don't know, did I have something against it or not? There's Secretary Celadon, Secretary of Defense, not too important. And I think those are all the characters. I know I rambled about all of them, but again, just want to get those characters out of the way. So instead of me having to talk about the mystery and then describe, you guys already know who I'm talking about, or at least have seen the pictures and could connect the dots to it. There's also Judge Pine. Judge Pine becomes more important in the next couple of parts. But just know that she is somewhat of a corrupt judge. She believes in the justice that she believes in. So she's not a by the books judge. So if the law says you have to convict this person for 5 years for their crime, she's going to be like, actually, no, bestie, I'm going to do it for 30 because I can and I'm a judge. And I love that for her, but some of the decisions she makes are a little bit questionable. And that is all of the characters. Now to get into important locations, before we start the actual story and the progression of it all, is you're gonna hear me mention a couple of times in this section. It'll become more prevalent in the next one, the ancient ruins. And the ancient ruins becomes like a big mystery location that you have to solve by the end of the book to figure out what's going on. I think the mystery ruins in this first part only gets mentioned like what, as I'm going through, like 2 or 3 times. But just know when I mention mystery ruins, it's important. And with that being said, let's finally get into the story and the madness that is the elementary section of Murdle Volume 1. Okay, so hopefully this next section goes a little bit faster. There isn't too heavy of a lore for this section. This is really the section that like builds up Deductive Logico for who he is in solving murders, but also it towards the end, it adds in that hooking twist to make you want to do the next couple of parts. So with all the characters out of the way, and again, whenever I mention a character, I'll make sure to add a little picture that I assign to each character. Editor Tiana is going to have such a fun time with this. And I'm sorry in advance. But anyway, let's start with the very first murder and puzzle that's in here. Essentially, Deductive Logico gets invited to a party, a big Hollywood party, and he thinks that he's made it in life. He thinks he's finally getting recognized for all of the crimes and mysteries that he solved. But really, he's there to solve the mystery of the guest of honor who killed that person. And turns out it was the amazing Orlin. And the amazing Orlin kept proclaiming her innocence. She was like, girly pop, it's not me. I promise you, like, don't believe what you see, even though everything leads to me doing what you think that I did. And eventually, after going back and forth, she declares, no cell can hold me. And that's going to be really funny later. Anyway, the next mystery that happens, it was Father Mango. Father Mango ends up killing someone with a harpoon in the docks. At first, Father Mango also argued, but then he swore and cursed, not godlike, and finally admitted defeat, saying, how could you do this to such a holy man of God? Anyways, the next murder is by Captain Slate. Logico really enjoyed talking about this, but then as Captain Slate realized she was going down, she muttered, I should have stayed in space. Hilarious, because you allegedly killed someone else too, in space. So maybe she really did get away with that murder since no one was there to solve the murder because it's space. Anyway, murder 4 is my girl Chef Aubergine, and honestly, my girl bestie did nothing wrong. She did do something wrong, but I love her ambition and her drive, okay? And she comes back later, and this is one of the characters where the murders are remembered and thus places her where she needs to be placed due to the previous events. But anyway, when Deductive Logico says that Chef Aubergine murdered someone, she said, "I should have cooked you, Deductive Logico, when the train, having had no conductor this time, flew off the tracks and into a gorge." So yeah, basically Chef Aubergine killed the conductor and the train that she was on. So it basically derailed and people got hurt. But then when Deductive Logico went to the hospital after the injuries sustained from the derailment, we realized that Officer Cooper killed someone with a vial of acid in the parking lot. And then Officer Cooper said that she did not enjoy being accused of murder that she had just committed. So she just said, "I'm a police officer. I'm above the law." Again, I love that we could kiki and laugh and not see the parallels and reflections to real world, because a cop would never just murder someone and get away with it. I'm not salty. Anywho's, then we get to one of the more important murders, the ones that sort of steamrolls into the plot. This is Murder in the Alley. This is number 6. Basically, Deductive Logico was walking home and he was stopped in a dark alley by a dark figure who said that Dame Obsidian was guilty for the very first murder we solved. Remember, we said that it was Amazing Orlin. And Orlin was like, "It wasn't me," but we didn't believe her because of everything that we had information-wise. So the fact that someone approached Deductive Logico saying, "Hey, actually Dame Obsidian was the one that murdered that person and framed Amazing Orlin," he was very shook. He was like, "How did I get my deduction wrong?" But that person ended up getting murdered. He ended up getting murdered by my boy, General Coffee. Murder is not okay, by the way. Anywho's, it was General Coffee with a piano wire in the dumpster. That's how that's how General Coffee murdered the hooded person who was like, "Actually, Dame Obsidian was the one to murder the person" in the very first part. General Coffee didn't bother protesting his innocence. He simply flashed his government papers and excused himself. He had been told to do a job and he did it. End of story. But Logico had found a note in the dead man's pocket. It read, "She moved the body in the Hollywood mansion." And if that were true, if the murder actually took place in the screening room, it would mean that the Amazing Orlin had been framed by the mysterious Dame Obsidian. Logico had to investigate. So from then on, it's him going to certain locations and investigating whether or not Dame Obsidian did it. So first he went to Dame Obsidian's like place of residence, which is a nice quaint village, and immediately someone gets murdered. Dame, of course, is a suspect, but really it was Earl Grey that murdered this person. And basically the reason basically we never get a reason on why Earl Grey did it, but I love that he said, "I curse you with the heat of 1,000 kettles," because damn, that's a real clapback, honestly. Pop off, Earl Grey. I would never think of that. But yeah, basically now Deductive Logico is super suspicious because it's like, dang, another person died in your village and now there's another murder in her home. But this time she's also innocent. It was Cerulean with an antique clock. And basically Cerulean was just like, it was just a butler. I don't know why your panties are in a bunch. And it's like, wow, that's someone's life. But Dame Obsidian really liked this butler. So Dame Obsidian made sure that he burned at a stake. And made sure that he was like gone and out of the picture. Then we have another murder. But this time it's in Dame Obsidian's hedge. And this time she's not a suspect because she's the one that's murdered in the hedge mage that she has. And turns out it was Miss Saffron with the poison tea. And instead of like arguing back and forth, all Miss Saffron said was like, "Well, I guess I'm going to jail then." Okay, girl. Okay, Stone Cold Killer. So basically Logico, after saying like, "Ooh, you did it," went back to the hedgemaids to like see if there's any clues about who may like why Dame was killed or like what's going on, but Dame Obsidian's body was missing. Right. The tea just gets tea. So anyway, the next murder, he decides to go to a bar, and it shouldn't be as funny as it is, but essentially, um nobody liked this person that died in the bar that Deductive Logico had to solve the mystery for. And it turned out to be Grandmaster Rose killed this person. And instead of getting him arrested or like something happening to this person, everyone in the bar just hauled Grandmaster Rose outside to give him a parade. And then Grandmaster Rose just shouted, "I'm the king of the board," in the bar. Like, come on, this is so iconic. Like, who, like, I just want to know the thought process of this person writing this book. Like, what happened? This is so cool. Okay, so in the next couple of cases, again, it's Deductive Logico. He's journeying around. This next case, he decides to go to coffee shop. And what did I say? Whenever there's coffee, there's General Coffee. But this time, it wasn't General Coffee that killed this person. It was actually Coach Raspberry. Not really sure why, but they just decided to murder someone in a coffee shop. There's no explanation. But then after going to the coffee shop, Deductive Logico is like, "Hey, why don't I just go to the library and see if there's any clues in some of her books?" Remember, she has world favorites books. And at this point, you think, man, Tiana, you've already described 12 different murders, and everywhere this person goes, someone dies. Is it Deductive Logico? And honestly, same. I thought so too. But Deductive Logico adds more to the story, and why he's being involved in the next couple of parts, and I'll explain later. But essentially, murder happens at the book store, but he doesn't care because he's grabbing every novel that he could find. And then these next three ones, the next couple of killings, like 13, 14, and 15, it's just Deductive Logico reading through the books and seeing if there are any clues. So the murders that happen in Dame Obsidian's books don't matter, but there is one where it's reflective of real people in her life, and keep that in note. It's actually murder 13 and 14 that mentions actual real people, but you won't know who those people are in 14 until the next part. So I'm skipping those. Just know murders happen within Dame Obsidian's novels because she's a mystery writer, and Logico's going through them to see if there's any clues. The last book that he reads, though, basically says, "Hey, if I ever die or if my body disappears, contact my agent." And that's where the editors and the agents come in. It shouldn't be funny. I mean, it is funny. It's such a funny book, but it's so good. Essentially, after going to the office to meet up with Dame Obsidian's agent, we find out that Assistant Applegreen, remember Principal Applegreen's daughter, decides to murder someone, and the reason behind it was because she was fed up with doing all of the work and getting no recognition. But fortunately for her, the agency thought that showed initiative, and they promoted her to head assistant. Like, that's like, that's iconic. That is queen behavior in this story. Like, that's really wild. Meanwhile, Agent Ink, who again was Dame Obsidian's agent, said, "Hey, Obsidian trusted me to handle her work. Have you considered like making your life into a book? Because that's really crazy. You solved this murder and you've been solving other murders. That could be a really cool mystery book. Like, hit me up." And so literally the next page is him making a contract with what am I trying to say? Him making a contract with Agent Ink to publish the stories that he's been going through. So now that's how we end up getting this Murdle book, because now you see the meta of it all. So like essentially he makes a book about all the real life murders that he goes through, and now we're reading through the mystery book and solving the real life mysteries that he went through. Isn't that really cool? Like that's so meta. That's like a game within the game, and I love. But anyway, Bookie ends up killing somebody because he gets really jealous that Logico is getting a book, and so he basically curses him. And this is really funny too, because as he's being led away in handcuffs, He shouts, "Curse you, Logico. Whatever your accomplishments, I promise you this, you'll never win a bookie. Mark my words, Logico, you'll never win a bookie." So anyway, the next page, Logico won a bookie. Ooh, that's the type of feeling I have when it's like no weapons formed against you will prosper. That's exactly what happened here. Anyways, the next murder was by Philosopher Boone. But honestly, Logico didn't care why he did it because he just won a bookie. Like, Logico just won a bookie, so he really doesn't care. He won a bookie for everything that he did. And this just is gonna add and promote his book. I know what you're thinking, Tiana. Wasn't this about figuring out why did Dame Obsidian murder that person at the beginning? Well, Dame is gone and murdered. And at this point, another thing to note about Deductive Logico in this book is that he is very motivated by money. So if you give him money, he's going to forget everything else that he was planning on doing for that coin and bag. And maybe in their world, it's also a capitalistic society, so I get it. But yeah, next, Logico's going on a book tour. A murder happened because somebody didn't want him at one of the locations, but he solves out which location didn't want him. And then it says, everyone on the book tour told Logico that what they liked most about his book was how Dame Obsidian's body disappeared. And unlike her novels, the solution was open-ended. And after being told that on his book tour, he's like, shit, I should probably get back to solving her murder because I don't like leaving things unsolved. Like, I don't like an open book case. After that, he decides to go back to his office. Deductive Logico does have an office. It's really small and shabby. And when he gets there, someone is dead. And this person was supposed to be him. So someone was actively trying to murder him for trying to get back into investigating Dame Obsidian's missing body. And that person that tried to kill him was Cosmonaut Bluesky. And then he said, nevertheless, communism shall prevail. Logico admired his optimism, but when he logged on to his old computer, he found a message, "Meet me here, there's something I want to show you." Then there was a printout of an old pirate map with an X that marks the spot. It was signed DO, which stands for Dame Obsidian. And also this callback to an old pirate map. There was a book that Deductive Logico read. Remember, I skimmed past it because it wasn't too important. But anyway, there's an old book that Logico was reading to get clues that featured a old map that marked the spot. So this is very much so Dame Obsidian messaging Logico to say, hey, meet me here. And so we get to the next one. So basically, after Deductive Logico decides to go to this sketchy area by himself, even though he just had an attempt on his life, because again, this man will do anything for money, but also to solve a murder. He sees that Dame Obsidian's alive. Hello? And not only is Dame alive, but Midnight the Third's alive, and Chairman Chalk's alive, and they're all three alive, but there's a dead body on the floor at this oil rig company. At this oil rig field, and then there's the ancient ruins there as well, which is also very mysterious. Why is it there? We'll get to it later in a couple of other parts. But anywho's, so even though we can't really celebrate that my girl Dame is alive, there's a dead body to solve, and these three people are there. So anyway, it was Dame. She killed this person with a piece of rebar at an oil derrick. But then Dame Obsidian chuckled. Chairman Chalk called the authorities and had her taken away. And then Dame said, "I'll see you at trial." Like, all these girlies are both, the girlies that get it. The girlies that don't. All of the female murderers, like, they had some gumption. They had some gall. They had, like some bass in their voice after doing these murders. But anyway, she basically says, "See you at trial." Midnight the Third explained that they'd all been invited there the same way Logico had. When Chairman Chalk and Midnight the Third arrived, Dame Obsidian said she wanted to show them something and then showed them a dead body. Ooh, girl, I would have been stressed too. And then, what was her point? Logico asked. It was a royalty negotiation strategy, Chairman Chalk replied. She wanted more, and to be honest, it worked. I'm going to pay her more. You did this for a raise? Girlie, you are already better than Jesus. Like, what are you... Like, what more money do you need? Girlie, The residuals alone are probably enough to take you for like your whole legacy forever. But okay, and now she got money after murdering someone, and we never know who this person that she murdered is. They're not important, but that's really crazy that this random person just died so that Dame Obsidian could get a raise. But honestly, again, iconic behavior, and my girlie did nothing wrong, but we'll get to that later. Logico basically was trying to comfort Chairman Chalk after Miss Murderer, got arrested. And he was like, "You're safe now." But Chairman Chalk just chuckled. Right. Okay. Anyways, the next couple of scenes in the wrap up will be basically Dame Obsidian's case. So one of the Blackstones get killed while Logico's trying to do a deposition for this case. And turns out the person that killed Blackstone, who is the attorney, was another Blackstone, which again, why I said when I say Blackstone, just imagine them as different people. So one of the Blackstones killed the other Blackstone, but this was due to the client requesting so. So Dame Obsidian just asked one of her attorneys to kill another attorney for shits and giggles. This woman is unhinged, but I still love her, and we'll get to it later. Then the next one is we are finally at the trial. Logico wore his finest raincoat to the courthouse. He wanted to see justice. He wanted to see Dame in the slammer. He wanted to end his book off on a good note. And honestly, same, I understand. But instead of justice, he witnessed a murder. The death of this clerk connected to Dame Obsidian, or was this just another murder? Obviously connected to her. And also I would like to note, because Officer Cooper killed someone way back, I really skimmed over it because it wasn't too important. Now Officer Cooper is on administrator leave, which is when they leave the administrative work to her. So because Officer Cooper killed someone, now she's in the courtroom as like the paperwork person, probably like the legislator or like the whatever, like typing up the minutes of what's going on in the courtroom. But that's why she's there, which I love a good tie-in and a callback. So yeah, it was actually Coach Raspberry that killed the clerk. But honestly, another thing to note is that when Coach Raspberry killed someone else before, it seemed like he was doing it because he was instructed to do so. So now this is round 2. So at this point, you could just assume, and I personally assume, that Dame Obsidian has just told Coach Raspberry to kill someone to extend this period or for other nefarious reasons, and we'll get to that later as well. And now we finally get into the actual time and trial of the century, because before there was a murder, so they had to push it back. So now we're back at the courtroom again. When the jury was about to deliberate, the foreman was killed. Like, we're at the end now. Like, we start at the beginning, now we're at the end of the trial. This is 24, we're getting close to wrap up. And someone got killed. And you know who killed that person? It wasn't Dame Obsidian, and it wasn't Officer Cooper. It was Judge Pine, the sitting judge throughout this entire trial. And honestly, I love her because not only did she kill someone, but she killed someone with a flag, which is crazy. And then it said, Logico explained his theory that the judge had suspected the jury was going to find Dame Obsidian not guilty. Girly Pop, how? What evidence was used in this courtroom that would not show that she's guilty? Hello? Like, the only reason that I would think that that Dame Obsidian wasn't guilty of all these murders was if I thought that Deductive Logico was, because every time he's somewhere, a murder happens. So I would think that, honestly, if it wasn't Dame, it was Logico. But anywho's, Judge Pine thought that Dame Obsidian was going to be found not guilty, and the judge obviously thought that she was guilty. Girly Pop, same. And so she said, I decide what justice is. Dame Obsidian got another trial, sold more books, because another thing to note throughout all of this, like anytime a murder happened or she appeared again when she was alive, all of her books were selling much more than before. So this all was just promo for her books at the end of the day, but we'll get to more of that later. But she was found guilty of multiple murders and sentenced to life behind bars. Thank God. Honestly, thank you, Judge Pine, for standing for justice. Was it right to kill that poor person who did nothing wrong? Because the foreman didn't do anything. Yeah, the foreman didn't do anything. Like, that's really crazy. You could have killed a jury member. But anywho's. We're finally to the end of this section. Now, after Dame Obsidian had been incarcerated, Logical got a call from the luxurious white-collar jail, because obviously she's rich, which she had been sentenced to, and had learned that she had been murdered herself. Girly Pop, this is your third murder. Or second. You've been murdered twice now. Like, damn. Honestly, get better security. People just out to kill you. Was that justice? Was it fate? All he knew was it was a mystery, and so he ends up solving it. And you wouldn't believe who ends up killing Dame. I'll let you guess. It was Amazing Orlin. Honestly, facts. You were put to jail because of her, and you didn't kill anybody, and you tried to explain yourself, and you were set up. I would understand wanting to kill her back, especially if you had a life sentence. I'm not condoning murder, and I'm not condoning, like, revenge. That is violent. I'm just saying I understand why these fictional characters did the things that they fictionally did. Anywho's, it was Amazing Orlin with a rope of designer clothes in a parking lot. Honestly, makes sense. Cash Me Outside has a new ring to it now in this book, doesn't it? Anyways, she said, ha ha ha, yes, I did it. I finally did it. She put me in jail, but I had to have my revenge. Understandable. Logical walked home that night, and he couldn't help but feel bad for Dame. Like, how? How do you feel bad for her? She basically murdered these people. At least that was my assumption up until the end of this, and we're going to get into the plot twist. But she essentially murdered all these people and set up all of these murders so that her books would do well and so that she could have a story. Like, hello? These are real people. You could have just, like, set up the scenario and then wrote about it without anybody dying. And, like, most of the people that got killed are just really randoms. Like, there was no, aside from Amazing Orlin, there was no, like, rhyme or reason on why this specific person died. So that's really crazy to me. But anyway, somehow Logico felt bad. And after all, she had a certain charm to her, even if she was a serial murderer. Boy, stand up. Like, you could do so much. It was probably because she was rich. Anyways, when he got back to his office, he found a message waiting for him. It was written in one of the codes he had encountered before, but which one? And I had to, like, decipher the code, so that's what that is in gold. But I'm gonna read it to you. And honestly, one of the most iconic letters ever left to someone. Okay, it's just too iconic. Okay. This is the end. That poor Orlin. I framed her twice now. You must understand that I had to do everything I did because I wanted to, and I have to do everything I want to. Girl. But lucky for you, I've obtained enough material for another several books, which I'll publish post haste. So I won't need to kill for a while. Until next time, toodaloo. Toodaloo? Bitch, toodaloo? We don't even use this toodaloo language in here. I don't think any of these people are British, or, like, if they reside in a place where, like, toodaloo would be used casually. Girl, like, that is such a mic drop of a section, because it's like, dang, I wonder why she did it. And obviously, like I said, it was to promote her books. But to set up the same person twice for a murder is crazy to me, especially when Orlin didn't even do anything. She just existed. Orlin just existed and got framed for 2 murders. And honestly, that's crazy that she let Orlin think that she died in the jail and, like, let her have that joy and then get another charge on her when she really didn't do it. I don't know how you fake being killed with a rope of designer clothes in the parking lot, but honestly, kudos to you, girly. I feel like she probably just killed a lookalike, which sucks, because, again, another person died for no reason. But yeah, if that didn't get you interested in this book and the twists and turns that happen, there are a lot more that happen. Like, honey, a big storm is coming. But yeah, that is the end of this part 1. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I have. And like I said again, instead of it just being a story and, like, just a read it book, you actively solve these and get the blurbs, and you get more information that I skipped out if you go through the book. So I would definitely recommend purchasing it from your local bookstore that has it, or going online and supporting this author and creator, because they are a genius and a mastermind. I mean, everybody that contributed to this is just amazing. So yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for listening to my Ribbles and Rambles and me talking about a book that I found super interesting. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.